Hello, I'm Sarah. Welcome to my YouTube channel, which is I think how everyone starts every video ever. You have clicked on a knitting podcast. Welcome to the millionth on this platform. I am going to call mine Sip and Knit because I hope that when you're listening to me talk, you are sipping on some tea. That's what I have. We'll also probably have some of that wherever you can see alcohol. I know you can, it's behind me. And then when you're sipping and I'm sipping, we can talk about knitting projects that I've started, that I want to start, that I've finished, that I had every intention to finish, and so on and so forth. We'll talk about yarn. We'll talk about crochet probably too, because I do that sometimes. And sewing eventually, maybe, who knows? I want a sewing machine. No one else does. I have no space for one. We'll see about that. So grab your tea or your coffee or your cocktail, please, and join me. I realized I didn't tell you about my mug and you're probably annoyed with me because it is very cute. It has a Dalek on it. Okay, so it is from Romney Wools here in Toronto. They're a yarn shop and they also sell, you know, knitting essentials, but also this. So don't remember the artist name. The little stamp on the bottom is kind of worn out. That being said, there were multiple different, you know, themed geeky kind of mugs that were like knitting puns. And if you go into Romney and you're like, hey, cool mugs, I hear you got them, they'll show you. They know what you want. So we're gonna talk about my fiber story. Thank you, Christy Glass Knits, for that title of what we like to call how I started knitting and what really got me hooked in the yarny universe. For me, it was a delightful elderly lady at Michael's. I was walking down an aisle. I don't remember the aisle. I was there for something not yarn related. I was saying out loudly, because I don't know if you can tell through screen, but I'm not exactly quiet. So I'm saying how I used to knit like 3 or 4 years ago, and I tried to teach myself how to knit a scarf, but it fell apart because it was like there were holes in it and I dropped stitches and it was really frustrating and I was really bad at it and I thought it was ugly. I picked the wrong yarn, I picked the wrong needles, going off about how it was the worst thing ever, but I really wanted to try again because knitting, in my mind, was a productive hobby. To me, I'm like, okay, cool. I can purchase all these craft supplies and I can either produce something that I can wear, someone else can wear or use. It's perfect for gifts. It's kind of selfish because I get to do it and I enjoy it, but then I also get to give it away. Someone's phone just went off and I know it wasn't mine. Hello. That is all to say, I'm walking through Michael's, minding my own business, talking about how knitting is probably for me. It sounds like a great time, but I just really feel like I got off on the wrong foot with this craft. And then my guardian angel sent from above, and I don't even believe in that shit, just comes walking in and she goes, well, dear, I can show you how to start and a project that will be short and you'll complete it and then you'll never want to stop. And I was like, that sounds fake. Inconceivable. She pulls out her phone and she shows me the pattern, and it is probably a pattern that anyone who knits has knit before, or if you know someone who knits, they've knit it. It's grandma's favorite dishcloth. It is cotton yarn, size 7 needles, and you know, you increase to 40 or 48 stitches and then you decrease and then you have a square and then you can use it, and it's amazing. And I was like, why didn't I think of this sooner? Why did I try to start with a long ass rectangle and just get frustrated? So she showed me and she said, you want these needles, you want this yarn. It cost me like under $10. And then I made this. So my dishcloth. Let's first knitting projects are, I won't use the word embarrassing. That's not fair to past me or to any future knitters out there. Your first project you will love, but you will also probably laugh at yourself, because I thought this was challenging, which to be fair at the time it was. now I'm like, oh, I can sit and do that in an evening, right? So your perspective on knitting changes as you continue. And I've only been knitting for about a year, so to give you perspective, I have from, dishcloth land, I have knit garments and socks and etc. that I will show you in future episodes. But I want to show you the flaws of this dishcloth. So you'll notice there's two little holes. Okay, those are drop stitches, which means, it's not a complete square. And then I just noticed this just now sitting here, and I tugged on the little thing. I should have known better. It's falling apart, and so is my heart. So I'm gonna have to fix that later, but essentially what's happening is it is like literally coming apart at the seams, because at the time I didn't know that you're supposed to leave a tail and you're supposed to weave that tail in. I just like tied a knot and maybe like stuck it, in, and then left it there. And I have since, if you can't tell, washed pots and pans and things with it, and it's rebelling. So first project, very proud of it, needs a little bit of a mend. But what I'm trying to tell you is cotton yarn is inexpensive. You need one size needle, you need a free pattern that I will link for you, and then boom, you're a knitter. You've done it. You've made your first 1, 2, 3, 10. I don't want to tell you how many dishcloths I've made. So now my next knitting project. If you haven't heard about Scarf Island, you've heard about it now. And I wasn't on Scarf Island for long, but I did make, I think 4 and a cowl before I moved on to other larger, more what I would call complex projects. The first scarf I ever knit, and I'll show you the stitch pattern first, and then I'll show you how long it is. It's important that I show you that. So that's the stitch pattern. It is like a waffle stitch that has like a garter stitch through it every once in a while. I will try to link the pattern below. I don't know that I will be able to find it again. It was a like Red Heart brand free pattern that I think I found on Ravelry. Genuinely, like I was just kind of like easy scarf patterns, right? Because how else do you search when you're a new knitter? Ravelry, the search function for me is a little bit frustrating to try to navigate through. So I was literally just sort by easy and scarf, right? And I saw it was knit in red and not like a tweedy one, but I saw bulky yarn, I saw easy stitches, and I was like, cool, I'm definitely gonna do that because bulky to me means fast, which not just to me, bulky means fast. So I was all about that. Now, the important part, the thing I will caution you do not do. This scarf, for me, as I am a 6 foot tall person, is too short because it doesn't wrap around twice, really. Then you get these kind of weird tails. I guess if you put your coat like this, it's like kind of fine, but not great. And then if you try to do this, also not great because it's like, again, tiny tails. So what I'm basically trying to say is I know that when you're knitting a scarf, you want it to be done because it's exciting because you have a scarf. Knit longer than you think you need to knit, I think is what, or, do what I didn't do. Read how long the pattern suggests the scarf should be and then just knit to that length, and that'll probably save you a lot of time. So my next first ever project is a very exciting one. I'm gonna do another video on sock knitting altogether and why I think it's pretty great. But I also didn't think it was pretty great for like most of the time that I've been knitting, which is only about a year, so it, like, you know, I had time. But I guess what I'm trying to say is don't wait to knit socks because you're afraid of knitting socks. The first pattern I ever knit is Tin Can Knits, the Rye Socks, yes. The Rye Socks, if you're familiar, on the front of the sock, has a garter stitch panel. I didn't do that because I didn't like the way it looked. So the important thing for me was a sock that was not, in my opinion, fiddly as a new knitter. I said, fingering weight looks terrifying. It looks like dental floss. Tiny little US 1 or 1.5 needles looked like death traps. I was like, I'm not gonna be able to do that, right? Because everything, you're almost like a toddler learning how to use your fine motor skills again when you're knitting. That's how I felt. I felt a little fumbly. I'm 6 feet tall, big hands. I was like, this is gonna be hard. So sock knitting is not for me, is what I was convinced of, right? So went to local yarn shop, the Knit Cafe in Roncesvalles again, or on Roncesvalles in Parkdale, again in Toronto. The West End of Toronto, just type it in. You'll find it if you're in the area. They're a smaller local yarn shop. They do mostly classes, but they do have a selection of yarns to choose from. Some really pretty indie dyer stuff and some more affordable stuff, which is what I was looking for, because as beautiful as some of the hand-dyed yarns are, especially when I was starting, I was like, I'm not paying $35 a skein to mess it up, because in my mind I was like, that's a waste of money. So I was like, can I have the $11 a skein one, please? Thank you so much. So I came away with 2 of those, and she reinforced that the Rye pattern was the one to do. And she said, just omit the garter stitch panel. It's actually easier because when you're knitting in the round, in order to create garter stitch, you have to purl. So instead you're just knitting all the way. And I said, well, sign me up. Easier is better. That's how I thought anyways, for the first probably 6 months of my knitting career. So what came out are these socks that don't fit my girlfriend. I did it again. So we have a running theme, right? A scarf that's too short, socks that don't fit, okay? I'm impatient. Yes, I don't want to keep knitting if I don't have to. And that's not the thing. I like to knit. I enjoy it thoroughly. I'm sitting here talking to you on a very public platform about how knitting is a joy in my life. And yet, I stopped knitting these before they were ready. And I think it was because they were the first socks I had ever knit. I was knitting them for someone that I love, and I was like, you know what? I want these bitches off my needles. I want them on her foot. God damn it, she's gonna look so cute. These are in her favorite color. Oh my goodness, and now they're too fucking small. So, hear me out. I ordered sock blockers because I'm now a sock knitter. We'll talk about that in another video. The point I'm trying to make is what I'm going to do is I'm going to reblock them on sock blockers, like a half a size larger than her feet are. And I bet you I'm gonna hack the system.
Hack the planet!
And I bet you they're gonna fit. Sock blockers aren't here yet, but when they are, I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. I'm excited. We'll see. Maybe in the winter time, because these are, I don't know if you can tell, they are thick babies, okay? They are for keeping your tootsies warm, okay? So what I want is for them to fit her, god damn it. Or I will just re-knit her some worsted weight socks, but I'd rather them just fit, okay? That's it. That's all she wrote. So I showed you all of my yarn failures, some might call them. I'm going to call them small successes in the right direction, right? I made a dishcloth, I made a scarf, I made a pair of socks. Turning a heel, that's not easy, okay? So I'm proud of myself, even though they don't fit the intended recipient, right? So I don't mean to scare you away from a craft that has brought me a ton of joy. I tell you these stories because I think it's important to say that you're gonna make things that you don't like, and then you're gonna make other things that you absolutely love. And honestly, depending on the type of knitter that you are, I'm a process knitter. I just wanna knit all the things all the time because I enjoy doing something with my hands. The product is just a nice end result, right? So if you feel like you watch this video and you're like, knitting, I thought that might be the thing for me, but I thought it was for, I don't know, your grandmother or your aunt or whoever it is in your family that knits, and you were like, not for me. Maybe it is, right? Maybe it's time for you to walk down the aisle of Michael's talking about how you want to knit, and then maybe your fairy knit mother will come in and say, here's the project for you. Maybe instead of walking down the aisle of Michael's, because shopping right now is socially irresponsible, I am your fairy knit mother. I am telling you to get cotton yarn and size US 7 needles, and you're gonna go click on that pattern down there, and you're gonna knit a dishcloth. And then hopefully show me on Instagram, please. Okay, bye. And don't forget, please join me next time for my Sip and Knit podcast. Next time will probably be something a little bit harder than tea because talking in front of a camera is scary. Bye.